to begin with, when I started talking about fundamentals of investment, I said we are discussing fundamentals of investment and we want to understand the fundamentals with the help of a security. So it is in this sense I said, well, investment could be in real assets or financial assets. And within the financial assets, well, we are talking of assets which are security and assets which are not a security. And I defined, what is a security. So these are the three characteristics which I think essentially define a financial asset to be a security. That it is of small denomination, it is traded regularly, and it is a financial asset. Now, in spite of these three important characteristics, in spite of a security being of small denomination, in spite of a security being listed on a stock exchange, there is a possibility that it may still not be traded regularly. Like there could be, highly liquid listed share, highly illiquid listed shares. The shares are listed on stock exchanges, but these are not liquid. There are not many buyers. There are not many sellers. So if that be the case, you find, it becomes difficult to get the relevant data to do the analysis, to get the information, to understand the fundamentals. And that's why we are, focusing on that these three characteristics are important. We are not saying listing is important. Listing is a condition to trade it regularly, but trading with regularity is important, because it is through that you get the transactional price, through that you get the buy quotes and sell quotes, through that you also get liquidity in the market. This liquidity makes it sure that anytime you want to sell, you can sell, anytime you want to buy, you can buy, because market is available to provide that. Okay, with this initial recap of what we were talking, so we looked at this example last time. Just correct me if we did not. I think we looked at this example last time. Did we? Did we talk of this example? Right? We were on this Excel sheet last time.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I'm just recapping. So this I have taken, this was another important part we discussed, like we were talking of, let's say somebody invested in the year 2008, end of the year, end of the calendar year. So we said, what does that mean? It means the last day on which the market was open. So maybe in 2008, I don't know what was the last day, what was the day on 31st December. Supposing 31st December was a Sunday, you will not get a price. You'll not get a closing price. But supposing the last day was from any day, Monday to Friday, and it was not a holiday, then you will find there is a closing price available for the last day. Supposing closing price is not available for the last day, then we will take it maybe second last day or third last day. We take it 30th December or maybe 29th December. And that too, if we are talking of, let's say, calendar year as our, year for which we are taking, or whatever, like we are basically talking of investment horizon. So 2008 at 100 rupees somebody invested, and over the next 5 years, this is how the prices moved at the end of these next 5 years: 118, 130, 120, 140 and 160. And based on this, we have calculated the capital gains. Except in the year 2011, where capital gain is actually a capital loss, or to the tune of -10, all other years the capital gain is positive. And likewise, for each of the year, there is also a dividend declaration which is there. I have taken a case of dividend simultaneously. We could have taken a case where dividend is zero in all cases, and we just focused on the capital gain part. But usually we find, both the components are there. So I have taken both the components together. So you add these together, and so you get a figure of dividend plus capital gains in absolute terms, and that you convert it into percentage. So you get annual returns in percentage terms, positive or negative. And you have calculated average of these five. So you get a 14.71% in this example. Now I want to, if you have any question at this stage, you may ask me. Otherwise, I want you to go further, right? Let's take this example. You can interrupt me if you have a question. Now, this is an example for 14 years. And let me, this is, this is an example for 14 years. And my original example, I just want to bring it to that. I'm saying hypothetically that every year the return is 10%. Okay. So over the 14 years, if I add these 10% returns in 14 years, it becomes 140% returns. And I take a simple average, so I get 10%. Or I take a different way of doing it, which I'm calling it as geometric mean, and I'm also explaining the mechanism for geometric mean. So this annual return, I'm adding my base price also into it. So I'm adding 100 into it. So it becomes actually 1.1. So in each of cases, since my return is a constant 10%, so it becomes 1.1. That is 110. Now I multiply all this, right? This is my multiplication of all these 14 values. And then I take a under root 14 of this value. Okay, why? Because these are 14 values. So that's how I calculate my geometric mean. Is that okay? So to calculate this geometric mean, finally I need to deduct this my value 1 again. Why 1 again? Because this 1 is the investment amount that I've added. So I get 10% in this case also. So in both the cases, in this example, I am getting 10% return whether I use arithmetic mean or I use geometric mean. Why? Because there is a constant value. But now if I change my values, sorry.
Can you repeat?
See, since I'm not able to see your screen, you just mention your name also. Yes, who is asking?
Sir, can you repeat this example?
Yeah, I'll just repeat, yes. Before I repeat, let me also connect it with the, let's say, some share price. Let's say you bought a share for 100 rupees. So you get 10% return. That means at the end of the 1 year, it becomes 110. You get another 10% return next year, it becomes 121, and like that. So over 14 years, if the return is constant, the price becomes 379 rupees. Okay. Now, what was my example? My example is that at some point of time, I make investment, and for the next 14 years, each year I get 10% returns. Right? So how do we calculate return? We calculate return over the base period. Because I'm calculating annual return, so I'm taking the previous amount and the next amount, and I'm calculating the percentage. Like if, let's say this is 300 and this is 375, so this value comes out to be, sorry, I need to take a bracket also. Right, so let's say my initial price is 300 rupees, my next price is 375, so my return is 25%. Let's say this next one becomes 380, just 5 rupees increase. So now this return is this return is only 1.3%. Why? Because it's only 5 rupees which has increased over 375. So that's how I'm calculating my annual returns. So I'm talking of this column, which is here. 10% every year. I have taken returns. I have also given the heading that it is a 10% return on my investment. So if I get for all the 14 years 10% return, so my average will be 10% only. So I have taken a sum of it and I have taken the average. So that's my arithmetic mean. Now to calculate my geometric mean, what I've done is I've added 1 into this return. I'll explain the significance of this 1 later. Let me first explain the mechanism, right? So I've added 1 into this. So each year it becomes 1.1. The multiplication of all these 14 values becomes 3.79. And I take a root 14 of this 3.79. That's how I have taken this value. So I get the 1.1 and this 1 I deduct. So once I deduct 1, I again get 10%. Right? So whether it is arithmetic mean or it is geometric mean, in this example, it is same 10%. I'll come to this EAR in a while. Yes, any question?
No, sir.
So now, yeah, yes. Yeah, somebody
Sir,
was
I
saying.
said no, sir, no doubts.
Okay, okay. So now if you particular year my return is, let's say, 70%. Now my arithmetic mean is giving me 14% return and geometric mean is giving 13.4% return. Let's say I change it further. I say in the ninth year my return is, let's say, 90%. My arithmetic mean is giving me 20% returns, but my geometric mean is giving me 17.99 or roughly say about 18% return. So the question is which is better? Right? The question is which is better is the question that we are facing. I'm just posing a question. To answer this question, I'm taking you to a new example so that this answer is so visible to you. So I'm taking you to a new example, which is this. If you understand the mechanism of geometric mean, now let us say this very example with which we originally started, right? And I construct a simplified example here, and that simplified example is, let us say in the first year end, I make an investment of 100 rupees, and at the end of second year, uh, at the end of 1 year, right? At, at the end of first year, I make an investment. After 1 year, my investment becomes 125. Let's forget about the dividend part for the timing. Let's say this is the return. Let's say there is no dividend, so everything is reflected in the share price. Had there been dividend, we will add it, right? So I've shown the mechanism of calculation there. Now let's, for the time being, forget the complexity of how returns are coming. So we are assuming as if there are no dividends. So at the end of 1 year, my closing price becomes 125. So my returns are 25%. At the end of one more year, somehow my closing price becomes 100 rupees again. So in my second year, my return is minus 20%. If I take an average of these two, what do I get? If I take average of these two, what do I get? %25% plus and 20% minus. What do I get? Average of these two values. Simple calculation. That's why I've taken only two values. This will be 2.5%. Look, I have shown this calculation here. Average of these two values. Now, is it a right calculation? Is my answer right? See, I started with 100 rupees investment. At the end of 2 years, my investment value is 100 rupees only. So in a way, my returns actually is zero. But if I use arithmetic mean as the method, it actually shows 2.5% positive return. Now let me use the mechanism of geometric mean. So what was my mechanism of geometric mean? I said in this I add 1, it becomes 1.25. In this also I add 1, this becomes 0.8. So these two values I multiply. So I get this 1. Okay. I multiply. I take a square root and I deduct 1. So I get 0. So just concentrate on yellow highlighted area and tell me you understand. If I use arithmetic mean, my answer is 2.5%. And if I use geometric mean, my answer is 0. Which appears to be more sensible? In 2 years time, my return is 0. In 1 year time, yes, you may say whatever, right? In 1 year time, it's okay, it's 25%. But in 2 years time, my geometric mean is giving me a more realistic answer. Let us test it again for 1 more year. If you understand this, then I'll take this example further for the next year. If you have any question, you ask me at this stage, because I don't think we will run this example again and again. Idea is to understand the mechanism. Otherwise, a lot of things are inbuilt into the Excel sheet, calculators. So the machines will do the calculation, but we need to understand the essence of the calculation, and that's why I'm explaining the mechanism. So if you have any question, you ask me. You interrupt me. Well, I'm taking next year. So let us say next year, my end year share price becomes 150. So my third year return is 50%. If I use my geometric mean, if I use arithmetic mean as the method, like I'm showing here, I get 18% return. And if I use geometric mean as method, so what do I mean by geometric mean? In this, I'll add 1. This becomes 1.5. I multiply now these three values. I take cube root of this and I deduct 1. So I get 14.47, which is a more realistic figure of my returns. I take 1 more year. So in the 4th year, my share price becomes 4th year and closing price becomes 118. So in the 4th year, I earn 20%. I earn 30 rupees over 150, so it becomes 20%. If I take arithmetic mean, I get, this is how I'm taking average of these 4 values. So I'm getting 18.75%. If I take geometric mean, that means in this 20%, 0.2, I add 1, it becomes 1.2. Then I take the multiplier of 4 values. Then I take quadratic root or root n, right? Root n of this value, which is this, and I deduct 1. So I get, so I've constructed, 3 examples. I've constructed 3 examples here. With the help of, same example, I have constructed 3 examples. So you find, there are difference in my calculation of geometric mean and arithmetic mean. And generally we say over a longer period, arithmetic mean and geometric mean gives the same answer. If you take a fairly long period, the answer will be same. But if you take shorter periods, somehow you will find the arithmetic mean and geometric mean are giving you different answers. And we say geometric mean is the more appropriate way. And that is why while calculating returns, we will be using geometric mean. So in this example, where I have used this geometric mean, this is what we are calling as effective annual return. Okay, let me just show the whiteboard also. Yeah. So that is how I have done my calculation. I've got my percentage returns for each of the years, R1, R2, Rn. I have taken nth root. So when I take nth root, I get a value. I deduct -1. I deduct 1 out of that. So I get my effective annual rate. This rate is very important. This is what gives me the returns that I'm getting on my investment. In most of the time, we will be talking of effective annual return. And this is the way we will be calculating effective annual return. It's an important chapter in your book, which initially explains the concept. It actually starts with the holding period return, which I have not taken it up. In a very simple terms, the holding period return is like this, right? This is the holding period return. I have not taken it up because I need to say a few more things about it. But if I take a very simple example, it is like this. But let's not concentrate on holding period to begin with. I am talking of the idea of arithmetic mean and geometric mean, and based on geometric mean, we calculate effective annual return. Of course, there is a concept of holding period return, which is somewhere inbuilt into it. We'll talk about it. Yes. Tell me, you have any questions? If not, maybe this was a good input for today. You want me to say anything, repeat anything, clarify something, please tell me. Yes, anybody? Am I getting across? Am I making sense? Are you able to follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I think I have completed this example that I have constructed, and then there will be more detailed examples in 1 or 2 lectures, and then we'll come back to doing something more. Now, so why is it that we are learning about all this? Why are we calculating returns? So we are calculating returns because we want to maximize wealth through our investments, and we are looking for better opportunities for investment. So when we look for better opportunities for investment, we find, well, investments do have returns, but they also has risk. Because investments have return as well as risk, we are following a strategy to optimize our investment. The idea of optimization of investment could mean many different things depending upon the investor. So if an investor is a risk taker, probably investor is trying to say that let me increase my returns vis-a-vis risk. Supposing the investor is not so much risk taker, so then the investor is saying let my returns be at a target level, but my risk be reduced. Okay. See, there could be different profiles of investors. So we will come to that dimension, how how do we juxtapose the idea of return vis-a-vis risk. The second important question that we are trying to address when we are discussing fundamentals is that all these calculations relate to data which is so certain, which is so definite. Why is it so definite? Because it is in the past. Because we are talking of year-end price which has already happened. But investment is going to fetch you returns in future. And the moment you start talking of future, returns are not certain. Prices you don't know. At what price the market will close, you don't know. And so in a way, you are no more talking of returns, but you're talking of what should be a better term to use. Did I share that term in the last? No. Okay, not a problem. So the better term would be, I'm just writing on the screen that instead of saying return, We will say expected return. And the moment we bring the concept of expected return, that means we bring the concept of probability. How to calculate expected return. So in the next class, after I discuss holding period return, then I'll also talk about calculation of, let's say, expected return. Is that fine? I think I stop here. You please procure book, buy book, borrow book if you have got membership of the library. There is a chapter on the idea of returns and risk where you need to sharpen your calculation skills. Once you sharpen it, it is easy. In examination, you don't get complex questions because in examination is testing everybody. So it gives you some basic questions so that it tests your understanding. I stop here.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so we'll meet on Thursday, right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.